So this is a change in fundamentals play. It was an earnings play. I decided to call this all in your favorite new highs because it really was pretty much something that was really easy to look at. It was just a couple days ago. The quote-unquote trade strategy for all in your favorite
So we have a
new
guest
highs.
here, so why don't you tell them what we're doing and why we do it?
So we are doing the PlayBook Checkup. We do these every Tuesday and Thursday. This is usually some of the newer guys, newer classes. We all will put together our good trades that have identifiable pattern that we'll see repeat, and so we kind of present them one at a time every Tuesday and Thursday.
And what's the purpose?
To better be able to identify our playbook trades, kind of get a set of plays together so that we can start to see them more and more and make better trades, and overall I guess it's to share our playbooks with each other.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to archive with specific variables, setups that make sense to you. You are trying to internalize that into your trading brains. You are hopefully, as you're going through this process, eliminating trades that you've been making that you don't want to make going forward. As you notice, you'll be in the middle of a trade and you'll be like, this isn't in my playbook. I just made this up. This is the Raj I made it up by. I'm making this play. You can say to you, this is the Raj I'm making this play up, and this is hurting Raj's trading. I should be making this Raj's play. This is not in Raj's playbook. Right? Right. So we all do that, right? So it'll help you after you sit down and you write out all of the plays that are in your playbook and you realize where your edge is. It will help you when you're in a trade that is not your edge to get the hell out and not make those trades. It will also help you to be bigger and better in a good way, bigger and better in the plays that are your strengths. So when we archive the HLF trade today, Tommy, yes, we can't help but in the back of our minds somewhere understand that that setup was optimal. Yeah. We'll see it again in some way, or we'll see a setup close to that. Maybe it won't be exactly the same, but maybe like one thing will be different. And it'll be easier for us next time to be more confident to be bigger. But if you're just sort of sitting there in real time and you haven't actually done the work to archive the setups that make the most sense to you, you can't sit there and be like, should I be big in this trade? Do I really like this trade? Is it really a good trade? No, you want to sit there and be like, this is a changing fundamentals trade below VWAP that's below the bottom of the range. I like this trade. I like this good one. I'm confident in this. And let me go after it. And oh, by the way, we talked about this before. I have to add to my positions in this setup. Because Mike was sitting there and he was talking, he wouldn't shut up about how we should add to these setups, and then Trey wouldn't shut up about it, and that's that trade, right?
So it helps you to become bionic.
And just let me finish. So this is not being bionic. Bionic's different. Bionic is going to take your playbook and creating filters for your best setups. This is sort of feeding your brain, okay, with the connectivity that you need. So, great athletes have connections in their brains that non-great athletes don't have. So we've talked about this before, but there's a really good book that was written by Dan Coyle called Talent Code. And scientifically, when you learn something, you actually build connections in your brain, and they're wrapped by something called myelin. All right, so if you are doing a playbook trade for changing fundamentals below VWAP, below the bottom of the range play, you do that. We talk about it in here. You're wrapping myelin around the connectivity to your brain to be able to make that trade. You will pick it up faster. It will be easier for you to recognize. It will be easier for you to trade than somebody else. It's literally a matter of brain chemistry. Okay? If you don't do that, you're going to be sitting there, you're going to be slower, you're going to be confused, you're not going to understand what to do. Okay, so that's why we're doing things like that, right? Mustafa? Yes, sir. Okay. All right.
Cool. So basically, my strategy going into this, something like this, is the stock has had multiple aspects to changing the fundamentals that were all in their favor. And it was a combination of earnings beat, raised guidance, upgrades, etc. And you see the stock gapping to new highs. It's better if they're all time, but if they're 52-week or more, you still see that there's going to be a lot of room for the stock to run. This stock in particular was at highs for several years, since I believe about 2007. And even then, the highs weren't that much higher for all time. And then the stock ends up finding support and trends higher for pretty much the rest of the day. You could also, I guess, call this a support at all time or support at new highs, change of fundamentals play. Big picture, TTWO has been a slow grinder up since it bottomed after falling from 2008. It's pretty much finished up for the year, almost every year since then. Stock's been choppy. It hasn't been just this clean channel, although I noticed that it had not missed earnings EPS since 2012. So generally, it was something that you just kept seeing them beat the estimates. And it was something that I wanted to keep in the back of my mind when I was waiting to hear their numbers. In terms of the market, SPY's been pushing higher slowly, and the day that this trade happened was the day the FOMC came out and officially said that they were officially ending QE. So you saw a little bit of volatility in the market. You saw some movements, and that was about it. And so that was the day that we had in the market. Overall, it got up to 200, pretty much touched around here, and as we know, it's been pushing up here now ever since. Intraday fundamentals. So TTWO beat for this quarter. It was Q2. They posted a loss of 44 cents versus a loss of 59 cents. So decent, adequate beat, and they beat revenue by about 20 million, so just under 20%. And the company posted Q3 guidance for the EPS was actually over 1.35 to 1.45 versus 1.2. Now, one little thing that I had a little issue with was their revenue for the next quarter was actually projected to be lower by about 20 to 40 million. And I think that you'll see that it has a little bit of sell-off in it, not as much conviction in the morning, and this is probably why. They posted full-year guidance pretty well, where the lower end of 1.05 was 2 cents off from the estimates, and the high was 1.3. And you saw a revenue of 1.4 billion to 1.5 versus 1.43. They also received an upgrade from, that's actually Breen Capital.
So I'm confused.
Kept that was saying Bean, yeah.
So I'm confused. Is this good or bad?
It's good. I thought it was good because originally their Q3 was slated to miss, and their full-year guidance was slightly lower. It's still straddling, but I liked that, one, it was at all-time highs for multiple years. Two, it beat for the quarter. Its Q3 EPS was higher. I wish the revenue was higher, but I also like that the lower end of the full-year guidance was still going to meet.
The revenue, this is off.
Yes. Yeah.
This is off there. And, sometimes people can beat on the bottom line with, sometimes people can beat on the bottom line, and that doesn't necessarily tell you that their core business is doing as strongly. Revenue is the number one indicator for whether or not their core business is doing well, right? So that gives me some pause.
Yeah.
When I go to the full year guidance, that is higher, and then revenue is kind of in line.
Yeah.
It's in line. So when I read something like this, that's what I'm concerned about. Like, why was the revenue not higher for Q3?
They just said it was just going to be a tough quarter. I don't have my book with me, so I don't exactly remember the reasons, but they just said that it was just a slower quarter where they were making some changes. They had some payments they had to make, and so their revenue in general was less. It wasn't something that a lot of people were harping on.
A little bit low.
Yeah, ATR is a little low.
0.8 or better.
Yeah.
A little bit low.
Yeah, but I just assumed that since it was going to be in play, it had high RVOL, it was at highs, it could run for hopefully a couple multiples of that. And the short float actually kind of, I felt, helped me. Since it was 20%, that's starting to get a little high where you've got about a fifth of the float short this stock, and you'll probably see some people covering if it holds at these new highs. And then you had the upgrade from Breen and the price target raise from Credit Suisse, and they reiterated their buy. So overall, numbers were decent. I think the fact that it was at new highs was really what kind of gave it a better picture for me. And I wanted to see it consolidate and hold highs before I really
All right, so one thing
wanted
about
to see
the
anything.
gaming space is you want to understand, I think this is more so than other companies, you want to understand, do they have any good games, and going forward, are they going to sell? So you got to be asking yourself that question. I mean, that's what really drives the gamers. Is there going to be a hot new game they're trying to roll out 6-8 months down the line? How are their best games doing? So I would actually want to look into that a little bit more. Okay. I don't play video games, so I mean I don't know what people play, but those are the questions you got to ask.
These guys are Grand Theft Auto, I think, right?
What's that?
Grand Theft Auto.
I don't know if that is good or bad.
I think it's TTWO. I just think it's
good.
a franchise.
It's good.
Is that a good one?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that he's gonna need.
He's not going to be playing video games. We're talking about that today.
I don't play
Luke's,
video games either.
What's that?
I don't play video games either.
I don't play video games.
But too many people they do. Right?
Luke will not be playing video games. My wife and I were just talking about that. That our nieces and nephews, that's all they did this weekend. They played video games.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, should be out doing some stuff. I guess a lot of people play video games, right?
Good luck with it.
I know.
My daughter on the iPad, it's like,
She played video games?
Yeah.
I think because you do something better, you don't have time for that.
No, I don't have time.
And when you have free time, you enjoy other better things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like heroin.
That's what
I'm an enabler. 6 o'clock in the morning, like, here's the iPad. Go, whatever.
Maybe not. So, anyway, we'll see. Okay, so moving on.
There's also something that I don't remember if I put on a later slide. If I didn't, it should be here. Is that partially in the middle of the day, Kramer started hyping it up, and he said that, which always can be something. Actually, the prior day I was trading something that he hyped, and it turned out being a blow off top because he hyped it. But here he actually started talking about how Microsoft should buy it and why Microsoft should buy the company. Interesting. It wasn't just he was hyping us and it was a good buy. That kind of pushed it up a little. So here's the daily chart. You can kind of see it's been a decent channel for the last 2-3 years. Hasn't really been taking off, but it's kind of been grinding. And then you see it making all-time highs, new highs above this $24 mark. And so this is where we'll see it. Actually didn't trade too much. It traded more than it looks on here. It traded about five, almost 6 figures in share count. So it was doing a little bit of volume. This line right here is actually the 24 area where the recent highs were. So this is kind of where you saw this was kind of the important pivot area. Wasn't as clean, but this is what you wanted to look at. And as we're going to see, this is actually where it opened. When it opened, it flushed down, broke this level a little, but then actually supported right at these highs almost. And then you kind of see it had a very nice rip after that. So originally the stock flushed out, leaked through 24, but came back above, and then you just saw the offers just get smashed. Stock then pushed higher to new highs, and then you kind of saw the pullback and kind of.
Sorry, the first move was up or down?
First move was down to the highs, to the recent highs that it had gapped above.
Trading in the pre-market.
Right here. So this was the pre-market high, and then it opened. Pre-market high was right about here, which is 2480-ish, 2470-ish. And then, but it opened at about 24, I'm going to say about 40. And from there, it kind of flushed. And actually, when it was here, I was thinking, okay, people don't like the revenue. This might be a short. It might just close the gap and keep going.
Good. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, and then it actually kind of held briefly. And I actually had a short position on here. I might have, when it came back up, taken a very small profit on it. But then when
What time of the day is that?
this is still before 10 o'clock. This is like 9:30,
I like that
9:40.
short. I mean, you have an open drive to the downside.
Yeah.
Pops up to resistance.
Yeah.
Short it, see if it'll follow through.
Yeah. And
Tight stops.
it's yeah.
That's early in the day.
Yeah. and then it popped back above here. And actually, when it started getting to this VWAP, which you're going to see right about here, it kind of hesitated for a moment, and then right when it broke through was when I decided to get long to see if it was going to continue the drive. Continued the drive pretty nicely, made new highs right above here for the day, broke above the open, and then kind of pulled back to VWAP. Wasn't as clean for the day. It had some weird moves and just was kind of choppy, but overall, like, it held above VWAP since that pullback for the rest of the day. And you can probably see a little better on the 5-minute here, where it really just kind of held above, and it ended up closing a little over 1.5 from the lows of the day, from that 24 area. So it almost got 2 points higher, which was decent.
Okay, so here's what I think of this play. Play sucks. Let me bring up the chart again.
Sure.
How are you gonna make money on this?
It was just a buy and hold for the moves kind of play.
Where?
The
Wow,
24. I was thinking to support.
So you want to buy at 24 because that was the high.
Yeah.
After that downward, right on the open.
It was the high of the last couple days on the daily, and then it was where it kind of stopped on the day.
Is that downward like that? Yeah, I wasn't gonna hold that. It's early in the day. That's not like a trade to hold. That's not a swing trade.
Yeah.
You might scalp that. You might scalp that about 24 for like 30 cents, but you're not holding that. I mean, so where's the trade? I mean, the only time it really, so I like, when I see this, when I see it get above right here, pre-market high,
Yeah.
and it's now above the highs, it's not the high, it's above the pre-market high, I get really interested. And I want to do what?
Long.
Well, I'm not long yet.
Fine.
When I see that, it gets above pre-market highs, and it's above its low 52-week high.
Yes.
When I see that move to highs, I'm not long, right? But what do I want to do?
It's a pullback.
I want to buy a pullback, right?
Yeah.
So my first place to buy a pullback is where? No.
New pre-market
My
high.
first place to buy it is where? No.
Russian support, right?
How is it would support?
Or it gets to a level, can't get below it anymore. And
It's also a consolidation area. So it pulls, all right, so it goes to highs, pulls in, and shows you a consolidation area. That would be the first place I think about buying. The second place I think about buying would be VWAP. Okay? Stocks don't always pull back into VWAP. In fact, if they're really strong, lots of times they don't. You can't just always wait for the stock to pull back into VWAP. If it holds higher above VWAP, that's what it tends to do when it's really strong. It'll consolidate above VWAP after it blows through it. It'll hold that area nicely, and then it'll trade cleanly for the rest of the day. Okay? So first is that consolidation area. Second is VWAP. But can I have my chart back? But so I'm going to buy here, and that's not going to work. And I'm going to buy here, and that's not going to work. And if I'm really stupid, I'm going to buy right here, and that's not going to work. Okay? And so, now I'm sitting here after I bought this, I'm thinking the only way I buy it is I'd set an alert for above here and try and buy it. So now it's like above 25, I'll think about buying it, and maybe I buy it above there, and I made 25 cents. I mean, seriously, I can't be bothered with 25 cents. So, I don't see how we're supposed to make money in that. Does anyone see that? I mean, what am I missing?
I think the only reason I made was because I held that.
It's just a scalp.
Yeah.
It's not holding above this level.
Mm.
Is this such an important technical level that you would just get long because it's above that level? No, it's just a 52-week high, right? It wasn't a 52-week high that was tested 4 or 5 times, right? If that were the case, I might just buy there and hold it from there. But then I don't know what you do here. I don't know how you don't hit out of that there. If you were to buy this here as a trade to hold, how do you not get out in this move below VWAP like that? You would. Below this consolidation area, you have to get out there.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I think the reason why this stock sucks is I just don't think the fundamentals are that good.
Cool.
I mean, compare those fundamentals to HLF today. Not the same.
Bigger picture.
Not the same. You know, you're sitting there and you're like trying to figure out, are people worried about what you should have been? You know, I actually think the best trade was the short.
Yeah.
Was the short. Like, I actually think that was your best trade. Because the opening drive, like when you see an opening drive down like that hard,
Yeah.
and you can find resistance with it, that's actually more likely to work.
Mm-hmm.
And fill in the gap. Like, you were on I actually think that was probably the best trade.
I had more size
This is
than
just a
that.
scalp of I don't even know how, like, Swanee might make money on that. That's just a scalp, probably even if it's a VWAP, and then you're probably out. It's too early to buy above VWAP and hold it. You know, you buy the pullback, it doesn't work. You buy the pullback, it doesn't work. You buy again here, it doesn't work. I think you kind of move on. You lost 3 times. So,
Yeah, not clean.
yeah, not good enough intraday fundamentals. You want it from a gamer. You want to be like, they're making a great game, and they sold more units than they expected. Now I'm interested. That's how you make money in a gamer. Okay? Or they've got this killer game. It's coming out in 6 months. They just announced it. And you can sort of see that people are going to play it. That's how you make money in gamers. All right. Any other questions?
What about the supply? How was the market at that day?
Relatively strong, and then later in the day, the Fed said they were stopping the FOMC or the QE. So then you saw it kind of drop down, and that's kind of that was about this time. And then you just saw the market grind higher after that. So the market probably also helps prop it up.
Okay, thanks, guys.